I'm very lucky to have Marcus as a songwriting partner, because if it were up to me, we would never finish any album.
Jennie-Ann, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to start by asking you a question like, are you excited for your new album? Because I assume that you're always excited for a new album. But as this excitement is getting closer, this part, interviews, conversations, the whole, it's cool to see that there's buzz always when an Avatarium album comes out. But is that always fun for you, or is this like, this is the necessary evil you have to get through?
No, of course it's fun. This is a bonus. I mean, making the music, that's what's the most fun. But to actually get all the response, that's like icing on the cake. I mean, of course it and also it's an extra sort of bonus feeling, because this album was finished in June, so it's been resting for a while, and now we pick it up again, and we get all this attention and positive response. So it feels great.
Yeah. Well, I'll just, and the viewers of this show know that I don't do that often, but I'll add to that positive feedback from the get-go. I'm going to stroke your ego a little bit. This might be your best album. And I've been with Avatarium on the journey since the very first EP that came out. I've been a fan of your music. I had a chance to see you live. I think I first saw you at the Grass Pop Metal meeting years and years ago.
Yeah.
But I've had a chance to listen to the new album, and it's really, really good. So you say that, it's nice to see the reaction now. Like, are you somebody that still has that like feeling of like, until the reactions come in and then weight gets off your shoulder? Or you're like, well, I'm such a pro at this point. I know what we've done. I believe in my products. I don't care one way or another.
It's both, I think. It's not because I'm such a pro. It's just because I'm so focused on making music that sort of that feels that I like, and I'm so focused on trying to be the best I can as a composer and as and in the way I perform the music. So it's that sort of consumes all my focus and energy, and so it's and if I feel that I've done the best I possibly can, then I just trust that. I just have to trust that others will feel that. Yeah.
So as you're describing, it sounds like it's easy for you to get kind of stuck in your own bubble, if you will, and the busyness. Because I mean, this is 6 albums now in just a little over 10 years. That's a good rhythm. Did you have chance? Because I think now officially the band is 12 years old. But this started, back in 2012, 2013 as a side project first, and you've been going nonstop. Do you have a chance to take a step back and reflect on, hey, we've been here for over 10 years now? That's quite a milestone.
Yes, I think it's. I think the sort of state I am in, or where I am in life, I reflect quite a lot, because it's, and that quite. That's so difficult to understand time. I mean, and how these 11 years have just gone by like a blink of an eye. I think about that a lot, and but also we have to remind ourselves in the band and me and Marcus that this is quite an achievement. This is our 6th album, and all the work we put into this is, you can't measure that.
Right.
So it's, I think the whole, all the things we've done is life change. That's a life-changing experience. And it's, the whole thing is a milestone for me. Yeah.
just wanted to ask you a little bit about, for this album specifically, influences that I hear, and see if there's any truth to it. Because, I mean, every album gives us a different side or different sounds of the band. Not that you've completely moved away from the identity of the band. You know, I'm not expecting you guys to make a country album all of a sudden. We have an understanding of what Avatarium is about. But when I started listening to this album, you know, Long Black Wave kicks off the album, and maybe it's just me, but I felt like, oh, I'm getting like a Burn era Deep Purple influence there. And
That's
then,
nice.
you know, maybe even like a Mistreated vibe in there a little bit. And then we go with Like I See You Better in the Dark, which I feel like, oh, that hits me a little bit more back to Machine Head and more Gillan times. So just regardless of different versions of that band, is it fair to say that there's quite a few Deep Purple fans in Avatarium?
Of course, we're Deep Purple fans, all of us. How can you not be?
Very
I
good
mean,
question.
how can you not be? And I think I mean, the music we make is of course I mean that's the is an effect of all the things we have in our musical libraries, and we're adults here, and we've been working with and loving music since we were children. So there you can imagine a lot of references to pick from, and the sort of 60s, 70s era is a lot of great rock music, of course.
Yeah. And so for somebody like yourself, is it possible to choose between Mark II with Gillan and Glover or Mark III with Coverdale and Hughes? Is that possible for you?
I wouldn't want to choose because they have, you know, different qualities and
Yeah.
styles and so on. Yeah, so I wouldn't choose. I would, you know, pick the sort of the raisins here and
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll just use like a band with different marks, like Deep Purple, and how they kind of evolved. I'll use that as a bit of a forced metaphor to get back to, or a forced segue to get back to your band. I know I said earlier, like, oh yeah, like 12 years ago, this kind of started as an idea and it was a side project at the time, and it kind of became more and more as a serious band in its own right over time. And maybe even more of a true identity as Leif was stepping away as a musician first, and, you know, still being active with the songwriting, but all the other band members getting more active in the creative process as well, maybe. In that, as you're reflecting on that journey, which you say that you do, has that been a challenge as different people, yourself included, taking over writing and creating the songs from somebody's very unique vision in the early days? Has it been a challenge to maintain the identity of the band? Like help me understand, is that something that is on your mind, or is it like, oh, we go wherever the music takes us? Or is there, as you start this process, going like, well, we need to make sure that we kind of still fit within what now has become this entity, Avatarium?
Yeah, well, I think it more so when we wrote the album "The Fire I Long For," because at that point, Leif said to us that because he was, you know, he because of his situation, he wouldn't have the same sort of amount of time to put into him, and he decided to invest more in Candlemass again, and then he said, well, you take the torch and you go ahead, right?
Yeah.
And then we were like, okay. And then, yeah, let's do this. And I think that, I mean, Leif Edling is such a master. He's a brilliant songwriter, and those, you know, to walk in, it's not easy to fill those shoes. I mean, it's impossible, and you just have to find your own path. But still, we knew that we had this heritage, and we had a specific sound that we wanted to treasure. That we wanted to take care of that and care of that. And then, so I think on that album, it was probably a bit more difficult. We were more anxious, I would say. Is this that this with the bill is this Avatarium, and I think we questioned that more, but
Okay.
now it's the third album that me and Marcus write for Avatarium, and I think that we immediately we first of all we got more skilled as songwriters, both of us, but also as a songwriting team. And I think when we know that we're writing an album for Avatarium, it just happens very naturally that we are so confident and we know what sound we're aiming for, and so it becomes Avatarium when we write.
Yeah. You obviously were there from the start, even if songs were written by Leif. You were the one that you gave your own interpretation to those songs by singing them and performing them over and over again. But do you have you must have a different personal connections with songs of those last three albums that you've been one of the key writers for than those old ones. Is that a thing? Like, if it was up to you, would you prefer to perform only or mostly those songs that you've had a creative hand in? I mean, obviously there's some songs that your audience now expects you to play, you know, like we want to hear Moon Horse, right? Like stuff like that. But you must have a different connection with those songs. Like, is that something for you?
You know, when I think about my musical ability, it's like, you know, I've been singing since I was a child, and I think quite early I understood that I have this ability to transform emotional material and vocalize that and make and to make music out of it, and that's my thing. I think, you know, I can transform this information into music, reach out, and that's probably my thing. I'm not the most virtuose singer in the world. But I have my sound, and I have my style, and I have that ability. So the answer to your question would be that, you know, the most important thing is that the material has quality. And so, I mean, I do enjoy singing or the music that I've written, but but you know, I wouldn't choose that before. There are songs that I adore and love, and I would not choose my own songs before that, because I mean, I think we've achieved and we've written some great music here. I do think so, but you know, you have to put yourself in some perspective, and there are good songwriters and there are great songwriters, and
right.
You know, I've performed so much music and sung so much music that I think I'm able to separate that.
Yeah. Are you that much more critical of your own written stuff though? Is it harder for you? Yeah.
I think so. And I'm very lucky to have Marcus as a songwriting partner, because if it were up to me, we would never finish any album. You know, I get so caught up in the details, and it's.
I spy with my eye a little girl going to the market in a hay, a yellow vest.
You mentioned giving your own perspective to songs that were maybe written by other people, but that you perform. One of those other songs that a lot of people will, I think, always want to hear you play. It's one of my favorites of the band as well, "Girl with the Raven Mask." It's a great song. What's your perspective on the story that's being told? I know that you didn't write the lyrics for this song, but For you, what is this song truly about? Because I've listened to this song like a million times, and every time I think I'll like make up a different story, I think, in my mind. Like, what's truly going on with this mysterious girl?
Yeah. So you know, and this is so intriguing, and of course, I would much rather hear your take on it. What happens with you when you listen to that? You have these, pictures.
Yeah.
Who is that mysterious person, and what happened to her, and where she's going, and yeah. So, and I would probably be occupied with that if I had written the song myself as well, because that's the greatness with music. If it's a good song, it keeps on triggering your imagination. So I don't have a more sort of true or legitimate story to that song than you do.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
There you go. We won't bore the audience with my interpretations too much, but let's just summarize it. Let's just summarize it in, sometimes the girl is a hero, sometimes she's a victim, sometimes she's a villain, and I'm not sure what happened to the family, but we'll just continue to make our interpretations as we listen.
Oh, girl with a raven mask, where do you have your home? Oh, girl with a raven.
This album's coming out early in the year. We've seen some festivals announced already for the summer. So that's exciting. Rock Hearts and I think Rock Castle are two of them that have been announced at this point. But the year is very young still. So there's lots of time for you to be promoting this album. What can we keep our fingers crossed for? What can we keep our eyes open for? When are we going to see you play this year?
Well, it will be Europe that we know, and we know we've gotten various sort of invites, and so we know that we're playing in Budapest, and we've been asked to play in Barcelona, and we're hoping for, or we'll see if a small tour in Germany would be possible, and so on. So, but nothing is settled yet, but let's see. So Europe is ongoing.
Yeah. So for poor people like myself, we'll either have to come across the Atlantic to see you, or we just have to all work together and make sure that you guys can come to this side of the pond and play some shows in the US and Canada.
Marcus has played in Canada, but I've never been, so I would love to. Yeah, Canada is where my musical heroes, Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, comes from, and then I would love to visit.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you, and if that's not possible yet anytime soon, we'll have to come to Europe and see you perform these new songs there. Jennie-Ann, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me to share some insights about this album. I really think this is a great album. I really love the album, and I can't wait to see you play many of these songs live, I hope, when you get to play all these festivals in this tour that's not yet announced. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and take care.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.